people of the internet, and welcome to... No, not welcome to. There's nothing to welcome you to except this video. Sorry. I'm still in the April intro thing. Yeah. I made 30 videos in April, in case you didn't know. I'm Jontje, I'm autistic, and it might not seem this way when, you know, I'm talking to a camera like this, but talking and conversations are not always an easy thing for me. Especially conversations where, you know, there's not a camera but other people. And I kind of wanted to give a bit of a picture of how that actually is like. Because I know that I often seem very well at that, I think. Or at least that's my sort of own impression, which is changing a bit because of these videos. Because I realized that sometimes I'm not quite as well as I thought I was. And I thought I said something differently, but I actually didn't. And well, I just wanted to explain what talking is like. And I'm a linguist, so, you know, that's... or I'm studying to be a linguist, I should say. So, you know, language and talking are things that I think about on a daily basis, more or less. And it's sort of, generally, if I'm having a conversation, or to a large degree also with these videos, it's sort of like there's an automatic sort of track running in my brain in a way that sort of does the things and sort of cobbles together conversations out of all kinds of things that I've heard in the past, I've seen on TV and so on. And it just sort of collects all of that and then tries to paste it together in what it considers to be socially appropriate. But what happens is that that's sort of automatic and it doesn't actually consider my own opinion very much. It's sort of just, I don't know, I guess some sort of emergency mode in a way. That because conversations are usually, you need to react very, very quickly. You need to listen to what the person is saying and then at the same time already, you know, check what you want to say to that, know when the other person stops, and then initiate the process to saying what you want to say in return or what is expected to say in return. And in a way that sort of, I think my brain has sort of automated that, but in such a way that sort of I, as the experience of consciousness that I am in my brain, doesn't really have access to that track. And I sort of watch myself, not literally, but I hear what I say at the same time that I say it and that the other person hears it. And it doesn't necessarily always reflect what I actually feel or would like to say. And the sort of, the effect of that is that saying things that I actually mean takes a lot of concentration, and there's a lot of rubbish in between. And I'm trying, I'm trying. That's why I write scripts, and I usually always have my script for these kind of videos here, because I can think about, and it takes a very long time to think about what I actually think and what I want to say. And which is why sometimes in this video I can afford to pause and to think about what I actually want to say. But on the other hand, I actually also use that effect because it's sort of, if I wanted to not sort of use that automatic track at all, that doesn't necessarily reflect what I want to say, I wouldn't, which I sort of do when I'm writing, I guess, but writing takes, especially writing to communicate with other people, takes absolute ages for me. It can take me half an hour or an hour to write one paragraph, because it just takes my brain a long time to get to sort the words into the correct order and to get the correct words. And then the fact, which is actually what you've just seen, there's sort of, well, word and what I call reaction hunting, where I know what I want to say from the idea, but I can't necessarily retrieve the right words and gestures and so on at that moment. So, and I think that is sort of, a lot of people would characterize that in the sort of semi-verbalness or more or less non-verbalness in terms of sort of autism vocabulary. And it sort of feels like, when you want to look something up on a website or something, but you have very bad internet connection, so you're waiting for the website to load, and it's just taking forever, and there's just nothing happening. I don't know. That's how I would sort of metaphorically try to describe that. And it's just, often my brain just can't find the right words at that time. It doesn't remember how to find words at all, or it may find them, but then doesn't remember how to correctly initiate the actual speaking process, in a way, I guess. And I've actually also talked about this in the video that I made in April about intelligence and how that can actually influence that. And I'll link that in case anyone's interested. And then it can also, and I've seen this visualized quite well also in some ADHD type from people who have ADHD, but I think it's also it can also be an effect of autism, although the fact of whether I have ADHD is not clear, and I might have. And it's that I have a certain information or a certain point that I want to get to, but there's a lot of background info, so before I can get to that point, I just sort of get lost in endless background info that I feel like needs to be there because it's a very specific thing and it needs this. And to understand it, I at least sort of from my own perspective need this info and this info and this info and this info and this info, and it's just endless, and I never actually get to the point because there's so many other specific things that it feels like one needs to know before I can get to the information. And on top of that, which for me would possibly in the future be a reason to learn a sign language, which I want to do anyway, but just because, you know, as someone who deals with language, I just forgot the word linguist. Where was I? As a linguist, I'm interested in sign languages because linguists just generally are really fascinated by sign language, and it's rather recently been discovered as a field of study, especially because there's some theories that think that the first human languages might have been sign languages or sort of combined sign and voice languages. So linguists get very excited by sign languages, and that was the special interest info part of this video. The thing is that speaking for me can just hurt, and my own voice can seem too loud and just hurt and feel uncomfortable, especially when I'm already, you know, slightly burnt out and exhausted. Speaking is uncomfortable. And, you know, listening as well. Some people speak so loud that it's so loud that I can't understand what they say anymore. And of course that makes it very difficult to respond, even especially because, you know, if there's background noise or something, I have trouble understanding people anyway, and that makes it even more difficult. And then sometimes all of these things just they get very exhausting, and I just can't listen or hold I'm just too exhausted to really listen to a conversation. And I'm exhausted right now and can't think of things to talk about probably any proper. See, this is weirdly appropriate for this video, I think. So I remember what else I wanted to talk about. And so obviously all of these things, and sort of having to listen, having to concentrate, and having to at least try to, or wanting to try to at least sort of get the point that I want to make, or say things that I actually mean, and not just say things that I've heard someone say on TV, which are cobbled together with a lot of other things that I've heard from somewhere or read or whatever. That takes a lot of concentration, and that for me I can't concentrate, for example, on where I look, I just, that just doesn't, I can't concentrate on that as well. So it just, whatever the rest of my body just does, it does on its own, and I don't really have any influence on that either. I don't really have a lot of influence on myself, is the point, I guess. Yeah, that's the video. That's the main point. We've arrived at the main point. Yeah, I hope that this has been somehow informative or enjoyable or relatable to someone. If it was, I would appreciate it if you could give this video a like, or if you haven't already subscribe to this channel, which is made by me. And I will see you, hopefully, next week. Goodbye.